Hello, welcome back to the Spirit of Watercolor with Linda again, and we're finally getting to it. I'm so excited. We're going to do our healing watercolors, and we're going to talk about what creates a painting in watercolor that is healing, calming, brings a sense of serenity, something you can mat and frame, put on the wall, and it will continue to do that. Okay, so while you're doing this painting and playing some calming music perhaps in the background and then painting, you will have that experience in creating it, but also in finishing it off, which this will take more than one part to do. I don't know if it'll be a 2-part or possibly a 3-part if we talk about matting and framing again, or we'll see if we need to do that. But because there are some tips about framing that can also enhance the painting that you might want to know, but they're also in earlier videos I've done. So anyway, glad you're here again. I'm going to start with the first element that is going to be incorporated. Well, let me mention the elements that are part of creating a healing painting, okay? The first one is color. And again, this book, Color, that I have, I should just let you know it's called, it's Color and How to Use It by William F. Powell. And it may still be around on Amazon. I'll check on that and put that in the description below. And that's why I'm going to talk about this book. It talks about colors in here and how they affect our emotions and mood, okay? Then another element is the way that it's done. Diagonal strokes and marks in a painting create activity, whereas when it's, the lines and subject are more on a straight positioning. Say it's a man walking, but he's straight like this. If he's running and he's kind of going, or a horse running and the legs are, moving at this diagonal, you'll see movement. Even though it's a two-dimensional piece, it's not a real moving thing. It creates that image in our mind of activity. So that's another element. Okay, so movement or not movement in the painting. And then a third element will be how much is in the painting. So, simpler paintings with not so much subject in it versus and more spacious feeling, okay, versus lots of things in there. So let's go back to color. Color, there's a lot to color, so this one will take a little more talking about and implementing, I think. But this book is all about color in the many ways, but the thing that I'm struck by in this that will help us with our healing painting is that they describe colors and how they affect mood, okay? And then there's a whole writing about that in here. Yellow is like the first color, and so I'll just kind of quickly go through, how these affect our mood. In this book, and this again is not cut and dry, okay, but yellow tends to create warmth, light, like sunlight, brightness, happiness, okay? And then if you go into orange, and you'll see some orange, that does a similar thing, okay? There's some red in it, but it's still creating that light, that happiness, okay, because the yellow's in there. If you go to red, which I don't see a picture of red right here, do I? But red is quite different, and according to this book. Red in a painting can create, now this is about as good as I can get here, but if you see this painting here, and there's a bit of red there, your eye is drawn to that red. Red creates attention, attraction. It's said oftentimes sense of danger, of course, fire. Some of these are related to actual items in nature, like I said, sunlight, right? Okay, so that's kind of where they're going with red. Okay, now let's think about blue. Okay, blue seems to set a sense of coolness. You'll see that in winter scenes a lot. Water, you know, the ocean or whatnot. And it creates a sense of calm, peacefulness, calmness. So we'll probably use that in our painting, right? And then I wanted to move quickly through these. So green has a sense of life, you know, from nature, foliage you think of. Can't find a picture of that either. But it also creates this sense of, again, peacefulness, serenity, somewhat like the blue, but a little more, because there's yellow in it, a little more of that life energy, okay, in there. So you can, and then we'll think about so we did the red, the yellow, the blue basically here. The secondary colors, we did mention orange. Then if you go to purple can be, of course it's mixed with blue, so there can be some calm in it. Here's a very odd painting of purples and blues. But it can have a sense of mystery, and I've used that a lot in some of my paintings of dancers and things like that. And then there's also the sense sometimes of darkness, night, because I guess you get that kind of glow of the purple at night. So it can have a sense of an ominousness, mystery. So purple, of course, we're all kind of, I know I am, and I asked children what their favorite color is, and a lot of children say purple, not everybody, of course, but because there's something very complex about it. It kind of evokes complex emotions because the blue's in there and the red's in there. So it, you know, you mix those together and you get some really interesting emotions merging and blending. And that's just my opinion anyway. And then let's look at, the green again is a sedimentary color, or a secondary color. Secondary. And so you're getting these different emotions evoked by these colors, okay? And then it's what we decide to do with them, okay? How we place them together, you know, say, we'll talk about that in the painting that we're gonna do. But I also want to mention one more thing about color. So here you see some kind of vibrant, intense colors in that first photo up here. And contrasting as well, the dark against the light, the yellows, it's sort of like a carnival Ferris wheel, sort of a park here, and lights and so on, and it looks very exciting, active, and whatnot. And it kind of is, again, the contrast of that with the black behind, which kind of makes it pop. So there's that element of mixing the dark with the light, whatnot. And then down at the bottom, I wanted to talk about this because here is a very pastel painting, and it's very soft colors again, the blues. And of course, blues, and when you soften colors, like gray is a softened black, some very muted colors, neutralized, you know, softer, lighter. You start to create a sense of sort of a dullness. It's not lively like the yellow or the bright colors, okay? So it's a softening. It can create more of a quietness, a peacefulness, restfulness in a way as well. And it's kind of a less focused, you know, there's emotions coming from pastel colors too, okay, which makes me think about, you know, the colors I choose, and you might want to think about that too. What colors do you tend to be drawn to and choose to use when you paint? So that's color in a nutshell, and there's much more to it, of course. But that's something where we want to think about what we're going to put in our paintings to make the painting give us the emotions that we want in it, okay? The other thing I mentioned was the painting being very busy or you know, spacious. So let me just, this is my favorite book. I've done a book review on this by, I'm sorry, his name, Lawrence Goldsmith. Yes, he's a fine artist who passed away some years ago. And even these are trees, but they just are very busy looking, okay? Because there's a lot going on in them, all right? And the tree's right in their front ground with lots of detail and splashing and striking motions, again, some diagonals and so forth. So there's activity there. Versus something I wanted to show you, I've got little posties in here to mark some of the different paintings here that evoke different feelings in me. Okay, here's one that's just kind of a water scene. These are very abstract, by the way, which I think might be fun for us because then you can do your own thing or I can do mine. This just has some blue in it and then just some kind of dulled gray sky. So this is one of those kind of in the evening sky, calm, you know, creates a different kind of mood than a morning scene that's bright and cheerful and sunny. So, but it's also very spacious and simplified so that your eye can just wander through the space, right? And you can feel that sense of quiet and peace, maybe. So I wanted to find something more sunny. Here's one that's basically, it's like the land, the sky and the land, and it's got a lot of yellow in the foreground. So that's definitely a different feeling, right, than the dark blues and the purples and grays and so forth. And we're going to create a painting where we use the colors that I'm finding from this and see how this works for us to create our own painting. Yours can look like mine or it can vary, and you can choose the colors you want to choose. If you don't want to do what I'm doing and you want to do a more emotional painting with, you know, lights and darks and the purples with the yellows, like that example, you could do that. Or you could just do a peaceful, serene painting like I'm going to do. This is just therapeutic, but also joyful to experience something in the darkness of winter days, to create something that's got the warm, sunny feeling, the peaceful flow of nature in it. And that's where I'm going to go with this one. So if you want to do this, come along with me or just watch it and then decide where you want to go from this. You're on your own. So let's go to the table and let's talk about starting to draw up our simple painting, and we'll see how far we get because it may be 2 parts, so it's not too long. So you can kind of take one bit at a time here. I'm going to draw up a serene painting, talk about that a little more, and then maybe start to apply the paint. If not, part 2 will apply the paint and the colors. Okay, see you there. Glad you're here. Please like and subscribe. Okay, so I am stretching this paper, which is a 10 by 14 inch Arches 140-pound cold pressed paper. You can use whatever paper you like, but this is my favorite, and I'm just putting that out there. And of course I used my slanted Zabo brush to spread the water and then tape this down with this 2-inch artist tape, which is almost gone. I need to reorder something. Might go with a slightly smaller 1-inch. This is really for large sheets of paper, but it's okay. And it really holds it down while it's drying. And then we're going to go from here to drawing up our serene painting here. So let's start with that. Okay, here's my 5.5 by 8.5 inch sketch where I've got a tree here, some trees in the background. There's going to be water up front. I am going for a more summery scene to start with, and we can do painting after this if we wish that has to do with winter, because that's another one where you have cool and peaceful scenes. But I just feel like the warmth would be very nice right now to have on my walls, right? And maybe you feel that way too. Something in contrast to, we're getting like 6 inches of snow maybe today here. So I've done that, and you know, there's going to be a lot of water in the foreground, and I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure I don't want any land up here either. It's, like I said, spatial and simple. There'll be some trees in the background. There's one in the foreground. There's some reeds in the water, and that's it. And it's going to be mostly about the colors that we're going to use. And then I did my, let's see if I can show you this. This is just, I'm drawing it on my nice Arches paper that's taped down after having stretched it. And I always like to start with my 5 by 8 sketches. Some people do a tiny thumbnail. It's too small for me. So we've got this drawn. I'm using these graphite pencils, which are water soluble, and I may or may not use them that way, but I really like those pencils. I'm using the heavier, thicker ones where I want things like the 8B to show up in, say, the foreground tree, softer HB lines in the water, and in the background 2B here in the trees. 2B or not 2B. Anyway, so that's all I need. And I just wanted to show you this. This is a little, I mean, this is in the book by Szabo, one of Zoltan Szabo's books, Color by Color, where they're using a lot of yellow, even in the water. I want mine to be more warm and golden, and I'm going to vary my colors. My trees too. So it's, you know, my composition is different than this, but I'm quite inspired by this. I want my skies to say a lot more, but this is kind of the idea I have. As you see, it's going to be simple and spacious. I'm not going to have all this information in mind. It's going to be simpler because, again, I want a peaceful, colorful painting. But, oh, one thing I love in here is these wet on wet washes, just the flowing of water right here. Isn't that, I mean, I do want to do some of that. It's just like almost watercolor blooms there. Aren't they gorgeous? I mean, that's where wet on wets do lovely things. Actually, the further away I get, the more detail I think I see, but when I get really up there, you know, and he put some orange in there too, and I may do more of that for more warmth. That might be nice. So I'm getting inspired, but I'm not going to copy, although he doesn't mind because his books are about how to paint and wants you to basically do that. But anyway, we're going to take this way, and this is going to be our first painting about healing watercolor that we can finish up, matte and frame, and enjoy, and help us through the winter. Okay. Okay, here's one more photo that I just thought would be fun to look at, where the sky now isn't blue, it's yellow, and then the water again. It's just the water, and this is more, it looks like a lighthouse and some other things going on. Here, again, simple, spacious, warm colors. I do like this aqua blue, which is something I'm going to do, whether I use a out of the tube aqua blue or create one with a cobalt mixed with the yellows we're going to use. Let's go to the table. I'm so excited. I thought it might be nice to try the wetting the pencils again. We have a whole video, actually 2 parts on this, on the water soluble, but I'm just doing this because it creates more depth and flow to the pencil. These are the water soluble pencils, okay? And then, you know, once I've done that and they kind of dry, they kind of stay there, was my experience. We'll see if they blend more with the painting, but this is my sketch, and I was just enjoying adding softening the pencil, and it becomes more painterly. It's kind of nice, okay, like that. See, softening. And the tree, I liked how it really kind of blended some of the colors together, or some of the lines into, you know, just the bark of the tree, and then we'll add some color into it. Anyway, it's really kind of a nice addition to watercolors, I found, because of its flow. That's not as flowy as watercolor, but it's got some fluidity and softening to the pencil harsh line, which I actually like a lot. And, you know, you could, you know, come in here and do a little more in the water here if you wish. And until, you know, they stop, and they do. It seems to me at some point they kind of stop doing their flow. But what I do like is my branches, sometimes I just like them to kind of have a little more line definition, a little more color in them, just enough shading. So let's see now. I'm going to probably do that over on the actual painting as well. The only thing I detailed with the pencil and wetting is I wet all of it, but I detailed with the number 8 pencil, the darkest, softest, let it flow into the tree. The rest I'm going to go paint into, and then we'll decide if and where we want to put more pencil. I just like that because it's so flowy that those water soluble pencils, which I've incorporated now into my paintings for the time being.